Studio. We welcome to the program now Denis McDonough, Director of U.S. Veterans Affairs. Mr. Director, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So we wanted to have you on to talk about the recently enacted PACT Act. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's an important law. It does two things. One is it says to Vietnam veterans who are exposed to Agent Orange, if you have hypertension today, we can connect your hypertension to your service in Vietnam, meaning we could get you more benefits or more care at VA. The second thing it says is to the more than 4 million troopers who served in Central Command from 1991 with the liberation of Kuwait all the way through the summer of 2021 when the last troopers left Afghanistan. If you served in that area of responsibility any time, we may, during those 3 years of war, we may be able to get you additional benefits and care as well. So we're urging those veterans to file a claim with VA, come in and see us at the VA, because we think that there's an opportunity because of your exposure to toxins during those two wars, that is to say Afghanistan and Iraq, and during Vietnam, we can get you additional care, so we want to take care of our vets.
Mr. McDonough, what was the genesis for the PACT Act? How did this come about?
You know, Republicans and Democrats in Congress have witnessed, over these 30 years of war in Iraq and Afghanistan and places like Somalia and Yemen, of course, Syria. Our guys come home and they develop certain conditions. Some guys have asthma. Some guys have sinusitis. Some guys even have developed cancers. And we know now that we're able to connect those conditions to the fact that our troopers were exposed to toxins, exposed to this particulate matter in the air, during sandstorms in Iraq, for example. And since we can connect those things to our veteran service, we now want to take care of our vets. So they've waited a long time for access to this care. We think they've waited long enough.
So what brings you to the great state of Mississippi?
Well, a lot of vets down here in Mississippi, and there's also a lot of vets who are rural or what we call highly rural. There's about 180,000 veterans in Mississippi. 87,000 of them live in rural settings. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to get care to veterans in those communities, especially. So I've just left Greenwood, where I met with a bunch of veterans, to hear about them with their experience with getting care at VA. So the soundings I get from veterans down here in Mississippi will help make sure that I'm in a better position to serve them when I get back to Washington.
It is part of your mission, sir, to just make sure that our veterans understand all of the benefits and the services that are available to them?
There's no doubt about it. There's about 19 million vets, Gerard, in the country, and we have a relationship with about, 10 million of them. So that tells you that there's at least 9 million vets who we don't have a relationship with.
Yeah.
And why is that? Well, one, some vets may not know what's available to them. Two, maybe some vets came in and had a bad experience with VA because we kind of messed something up. And we want to urge them to come back and give us another try. Three is some of our vets, they're warriors, and they're worried more about their battle buddies than they are about themselves. So they think that if they apply, they're going to be taking something from somebody else. So me getting out here and making sure that I have a chance to talk to Mississippi vets to remind them that, hey, you're not taking anything from anybody else. These are benefits that you have earned. We want to have a relationship with you, and so if we screwed this up in the past, let's make sure that we can fix it this time.
Yeah, it's a great point because no secret there's not a lot of intersection between the two major parties in this country from a policy perspective, but this seems to be specifically veterans and veterans benefits. This seems to be an area where there is congruence.
That's definitely true. And, in fact, this new law that we just talked about a minute ago, the PACT Act, was passed overwhelmingly with support from Republicans and Democrats. And it's because those leaders in Washington recognize the great sacrifices that our troopers have made for us over the years. And, I sometimes say to people that what I witnessed when I'm in Washington is a lot of times members of Congress would like to vote twice or three times for vets because they feel so strongly for them. And so I feel particular responsibility now that we have these authorities, now that we have these investments. I feel a particular responsibility to get out and make sure that all vets know what's available to them.
A couple of things that I guess have been highlighted vis-a-vis veterans the last few years is homelessness of our veterans and, of course, mental health of our vets. Yeah,
those are two of our main priorities. Our number one priority is to end veteran suicide.
Right.
And it's just too often still, even though we've made good progress in the last several years, year-on-year reduction, there's still too many veterans who, at a time of darkness, choose suicide. So we're working. The most interesting thing recently we're starting to do, including here in Mississippi, is working with local organizations who know their veterans best and investing in them in the kinds of programming that will make sure that veterans know that they're not alone. So that could mean recreational therapy. That could mean, obviously, traditional mental health care, but it could also mean, new things like, as I said, recreational therapy, even things like service dogs and equine therapy, working in rural settings with horses. So we're testing everything to make sure that we leave no stone unturned on that. On homelessness, last year we promised to get 38,000 homeless vets permanently housed. We met that number. In fact, we permanently housed last year across the country 40,400 veterans.
Wow. And
we're going to do the same number this year, 38,000. Halfway through the year, we just have the numbers through June. Halfway through the year, that is through June, we're on our way to meet that number. Now, that's exciting, but it's also heartbreaking that we have to keep doing that. But you know what? We're going to keep doing it until there are no more homeless vets, so we get them all into houses and all with the quality of life that they've earned given the great sacrifice they've made on our behalf.
Dennis, if we have vets listening, and I know we do, and they're interested in availing themselves of some of the services, how do they go about doing that? Where do they start?
Great question. First of all, if there are vets who are or family members who are worried about somebody in their life in crisis, just dial 988, and then as a veteran, press 1, and we'll get you connected to mental health professionals immediately. So 988, press 1. For veterans who are looking to learn more about something like the PACT Act or learn more about supportive services because of homelessness, please visit us or give us a call at 1-800-MyVA-411. That's 1-800-MyVA-411. We're traditionally picking up those calls within 10 seconds. So if you give us a call, we can start asking your questions today, and we can even start working with you to file a claim under something like the PACT Act.
When a member of the armed forces is transitioning from active duty and thus to a vet, where should they start with getting in contact with Veterans Affairs? Through the same systems? How does that work?
Yeah, so there's two things to think about. One is there's something called the Transition Assistance Program, the TAP program. So that's a program that all of our transitioning vets, I gather your brother was a vet, is a vet. And so all vets go through that programming. So that's one thing where we're going to be there on base with our transitioning vets. The second thing is we have something called Operation Solid Start. So over the course of the first year of a veteran's transition, we're in touch with that veteran 2 to 3 times to make sure that we're answering any question those vets have. And then third is, look, there's no limit to this in terms of a veteran. We want to have a relationship with those vets over a lifetime. So they can always get us just walking in at our VA facilities, seeing us at a vet center, which is a retail setting for them to get emergency counseling services, or by calling us at the number I said before. But we want to be with you on your base as you're transitioning, making sure you know what's available to you, and making sure you file your claim as you're transitioning. and then we'll be in touch with you directly during that first year transition.
Gotcha. Mr. McDonough, really appreciate you joining us today, sir, and thanks so much for coming to the great state of Mississippi and talking about benefits available to our veterans. We thank them for their service. Unbelievable.
Thank you so much for giving me some time, and I'm with you. Unbelievable what they've done for us.
Yes, sir.
Now it's time for us to do for them. I appreciate you very much.
You bet. We're stepping aside for a break. We're in the Element Well studio. We're coming right back.